we all have these stories. I remember giving a lecture at Princeton and trying to get back home by way of the Amtrak station at Trenton, and a very smartly dressed young chap with a attaché case under his arm getting out of a taxi, coming over and offering his hand and saying, "I don't have much time, I'm late for my train to New York, but I want you to know that I listen to your lectures every morning on my exercise machine." And I did have this picture of a chap sort of doing the categorical imperative as he... one's fame spreads, of course. I've teased my Oxford colleagues by saying that, might surprise them, but I'm a very well-known figure in the world of refined thought. And I was arranging to have supper with a dear friend, one of our great 20th century philosophers, David Wiggins. I had teased him with this from time to time. And before we met for supper, I'm sitting in the Morse room at the Randolph Hotel, named after Inspector Morse. And while waiting for David, this chap and his wife came over saying, he said, "Well," I said to my wife, "wouldn't it be marvelous," they were coming up from someplace, if when we got there, Professor Robinson was there, and there you are." And he came over and he was very excited about it, whereupon Wiggins came in and heard the end of this conversation, and the couple left, and I said to Wiggins, "You thought I wasn't famous?" So, thank you, Tom, for all of that, and more, and much more. The country thanks you for much more. There's a pleasure when truly deserving people have their merits publicly acknowledged. And the pleasure is greatly enhanced when it's showered on a friend. And Tom Rollins is my friend. It's quite apt that we meet here in Anderson House. The Society of the Cincinnatus was founded in 1783 for the express purpose of promulgating the principles of the American Revolution. How apt that tonight's honored guest should reach the active and civic life by way of law. For it was our revolution that advanced and defended the sacred precept according to which sovereignty is the sovereignty of law. My thoughts tonight are moved by these associations and moved back to the time of the very first of our citizens to bear the title Professor of Law. Lunch is on me if you can tell me who that was. And I refer to George Wythe, Thomas Jefferson's teacher and friend, who was an outspoken opponent of slavery, indeed a Virginian who freed his own slaves. Wythe possessed a mind grounded in classical scholarship and directed by a clear sense of purpose and of principle. Jefferson would correspond with Wythe on various matters, but for tonight's occasion, Tom, I offer you a letter that he addressed to Wythe on August 13th in 1786. Some of you will recognize this quite summoning passage. This is Jefferson to Wythe. I think by far the most important bill in our whole code is that for the diffusion of knowledge among the people. No other sure foundation can be devised for the preservation of freedom and happiness. Preach, my dear sir, a crusade against ignorance. Establish and improve the law for educating the common people. The tax which will be paid for this purpose is not more than 1,000th part of what will be paid to kings and nobles who will rise up among us if we leave the people in ignorance. Tom Rollins has been truer to this spirit than is today's college or university. His has been a crusade against ignorance, but an American crusade, stripped of artificial rank and unearned privilege. Where knowledge itself has not been democratized, the political forms of democracy can be little more than ritual. Those of us who have offered courses under his gentle guidance, the gentle guidance of my friend, have received deeply gratifying words of praise from customers. My own collection includes thoughtful letters from university professors, at least one convicted felon, and more than one teenager who had no idea that philosophy was actually interesting. I never read these without thinking of you, Tom, thinking of a great idea made into a reality by a man who abandoned a profession for that special state of being, a vocation. Thank you, Tom.